Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving into a pretty big stack of sources covering some truly massive announcements from Apple's WWDC 2025.
Yeah, huge stuff.
Specifically, the reveals of iOS 26 and iPadOS 26. We've got articles here from TechRadar, Tom's Guide, and of course the official press releases directly from Apple to guide us.
Right. And our mission really is to cut through all the noise, pull out the most important bits of info from these sources, and help understand what these updates actually mean for you, the user, when they land this fall.
Think of it as getting the key takeaways without needing to sit through the whole keynote or read every single article.
Exactly. A shortcut to being informed.
And right off the bat, the headline, especially for the iPad, it's pretty bold. Apple's calling iPadOS 26 its
Biggest iPadOS release ever. Yeah, that's the quote from Craig Federighi. He said, it has powerful features that take the experience to the next level and transform what users can do on iPad.
That's a big claim. And both iOS 26 and iPadOS 26, they're definitely slated for fall 2025, right?
Yep, this fall. It's a significant claim, for sure, especially considering how iPadOS has, evolved over the years.
And just quickly, the name, people might be wondering, it's iOS 26 after iOS 18 and iPadOS 26 after iPadOS 18.
Correct. Apple's switching up the naming. They're reflecting the following year, 2026, even though the software's out in fall 2025.
A bit like car models, maybe, looking ahead. But bottom line, these are the updates you'll likely see on your devices soon.
Exactly. And the sources, they really seem to highlight two massive themes this year. First, a really fundamental visual change, and second, this deep, deep integration of Apple Intelligence just everywhere.
Okay, let's kick off with that first one then, the look and feel. Our sources are talking about a full-on visual overhaul for both iOS 26 and iPadOS 26.
Yeah, and this isn't just like new icons. It's apparently inspired quite a bit by visionOS, their spatial computing platform.
Okay.
The whole interface is being rebuilt, partly using this new digital material they're calling liquid glass.
Liquid glass.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sounds kind of futuristic. But what does that, actually translate to for the everyday user experience?
Well, think textures that are translucent, so they react to what's behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Think softer, more rounded corners pretty much everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Icons might have a slightly bubbly look, and interface elements, your buttons, sliders, panels, they'll subtly reflect and refract their surroundings.
Interesting.
The sources indicate this applies system-wide. Core controls, even third-party apps eventually.
So the idea is making the interface feel more organic, maybe more immersive.
Precisely. And this new look, it extends right to the home screen and the lock screen. More personalization options there.
Like what?
So alongside light-dark modes and tints, there's a new clear theme that really plays up the translucency. On the lock screen, the time and widgets apparently adapt fluidly, changing position and transparency based on the photo behind them.
Oh, cool.
And you can add these spatial scenes. They create a kind of 3D effect when you tilt your phone, like looking through a window.
That spatial scene thing could be really visually neat. Maybe a bit gimmicky, we'll see.
Could be. The sources say it adds depth, and this design approach carries into the apps too. You'll see changes like a simplified camera layout focused just on the shot.
Right.
The Photos app brings back the library and collections tabs.
Mm-hmm.
Safari web pages apparently flow edge to edge using more screen.
Mm-hmm.
And tab bars in apps like music, news, podcasts, they become these floating things that shrink and expand as you scroll dynamically.
Okay, so a pretty significant visual refresh across the board. Fluidity, immersion, got it. But beyond looks, Apple's also tackling how you use apps, especially on the iPad. Sources are calling out a major leap for iPad multitasking in iPadOS 26.
Yes, this is where that biggest release ever claim probably hits hardest for longtime iPad folks.
Yeah.
iPadOS 26 is bringing in a powerful, totally new windowing system.
Okay, how is this different from Stage Manager? Or, better.
It definitely builds on Stage Manager, but it goes way further. The key thing, the sources say, is being able to resize and rearrange windows to, well, pretty much any size or position you want, freely, on the canvas.
Wait, any size? Like freely, like on a Mac? That's been the dream for ages.
The sources really strongly suggest that level of flexibility. Yeah. Apps are also supposed to open in the exact same size and position they were when you last closed them.
Okay.
Plus, there's a new Exposé view, and yes, they describe it explicitly as like macOS mission control. Lets you see all your open windows spread out.
Wow. Exposé on iPad?
And get another big request, the mouse pointer. It's updated to function as an actual pointer in this new mode.
An actual pointer. Okay, you definitely have my attention now. So this really tackles that core complaint that multitasking always felt a bit constrained.
That seems to be the clear goal. The sources say this new system supports up to 6 simultaneous windows on all currently available iPads.
6 windows, okay.
And adding to that desktop vibe, there's a menu bar in the new windowed mode. You bring the mouse pointer to the top, and it appears with app-specific options.
macOS.
Reminiscent of it, yeah. But sources say it's customizable by developers, not identical.
So, okay, step back. As a user, why do these windowing changes matter? Beyond just cramming more apps onto the screen.
Because it fundamentally shifts the iPad's potential for, serious work. Imagine researching in multiple browser tabs while writing in another window, dragging stuff between them easily.
Yeah.
Or just having your chat app always visible off to the side. This kind of flexible arrangement could mean the iPad can finally handle more complex workflows that felt awkward before. It really pushes it closer to being a primary computer for more people.
All right, so we've got this new fluid look liquid glass and a much more capable multitasking system, especially on iPad. And sort of powering a lot of this and woven through everything is this deeper integration of Apple Intelligence.
Exactly. Apple Intelligence is, becoming more capable, and it's just integrated more deeply across both iOS 26 and iPadOS 26. One really standout new feature seems to be live translation.
Live translation, where?
Integrated right into messages, FaceTime, and even regular phone calls.
So hold on. I could text someone in, say, French, and they see it in English and back again. Automatically.
For text-in messages, incoming text can be auto-translated. For voice, like in FaceTime, you get translated live captions on your screen, but you still hear the original voice too.
Okay, captions.
And maybe the most impressive part in phone calls? It can translate what's spoken aloud, almost in real time, even if the person on the other end doesn't have an iPhone.
Whoa, how's the privacy on that?
That's a key point the sources highlight. It's handled by on-device models whenever possible. Big emphasis on privacy there.
Good, very important with AI. What about the more creative side of AI? Genmoji, that sort of thing.
Right, Genmoji and Image Playground. They're coming to iPad now and getting updates on iPhone too. You can create custom emoji, the Genmoji, and images in Image Playground just by mixing existing emoji, Genmoji, and text descriptions.
So I can say, make a T-Rex wearing a party hat.
Pretty much. You can specify attributes, expressions. There are new styles too, including some that apparently leverage ChatGPT's image generation, like oil painting style or whatever.
Interesting, using ChatGPT.
Yeah, you can even send a description or a photo from Image Playground straight to ChatGPT to generate something.
That's a surprising integration, given Apple's usual walled garden approach. Suggests they see value in external models for some things. What about interacting with stuff that's already on my screen?
That's where visual intelligence comes in, and it's expanding a lot. It now lets you search and take action based on basically anything you're looking at across different apps.
How does that work?
You can ask Apple Intelligence, or, optionally, send it to ChatGPT questions about the content right there on your screen. See a cool jacket in an email. You could use this to search Google or Etsy for similar ones.
Okay, that's useful.
It's smart enough too, they say, to spot things like event details in an email date, time, location, and suggest adding it straight to your calendar, pre-filled.
Nice, very handy. How do you trigger that? Like, how do you tell it, look at my screen?
Sources mention it's tied to a screen capture gesture, and they explicitly call it a circle-to-search rival. So think quick in-context analysis.
Gotcha. And shortcuts. How is AI making automation better?
Shortcuts get what they're calling intelligent actions using Apple Intelligence. So dedicated actions for writing tools, Image Playground, things like that.
Okay.
But more interestingly, your shortcuts can now tap into the Apple Intelligence models themselves for analysis or responses. The example given was comparing class notes to an audio transcription using the AI within a shortcut.
That's a practical use case, making automation smarter. And you mentioned AI for order tracking.
Yeah, Apple Intelligence can automatically find and summarize order details from your emails, even if you didn't use Apple Pay, and put all the tracking info and progress in one spot.
Okay, that could clean up my inbox. What about app developers? Can they use this AI?
Yes, big news for them. A new foundation models framework gives any app developer access to the on-device Apple Intelligence model. And the sources emphasize this is free for developers.
Free access to the on-device AI.
Yep, enables them to build fast, private, offline AI features into their apps without extra cost.
So, okay, let's pull these AI threads together. Translation, Genmoji, Image Playground, screen analysis, smarter shortcuts, order tracking.
Yeah.
What's the big picture for me, the user?
The way the sources describe it, it's about making your devices feel more personal, more genuinely helpful, and more expressive. Streamlining communication, managing tasks, creating stuff by understanding context better. All while trying, theoretically, to keep your data private, especially if that on-device focus. It feels less about just having a chatbot and more about intelligence being this background assistant everywhere.
Makes sense. Okay, moving away from pure AI, some core communication apps are getting revamped. Phone and messages. And significantly, the phone app is finally coming to iPad.
Yes, that's been requested forever. Phone app on iPadOS. On iOS, the phone app itself gets a cleaner look, combining favorites, recents, and voicemails into one view.
Okay, simpler. Now, call screening, how does that work? It builds on live voicemail.
It takes it a step further. If an unknown number calls, it tries to gather info about the caller before you answer to help you decide. It also filters messages from unknown senders into a separate folder automatically. And this one could be huge. Hold Assist. It uses AI to listen for hold music ending and notifies you when a live person is actually back on the line.
Hold Assist. Finally, no more waiting with the phone to my ear. What about screening in the Messages app?
Similar idea. Messages from unknown senders go into a dedicated folder. They stay silenced. You can then choose to mark them as known, ask who they are, or just delete them without ever getting pinged.
More control. That seems key. What about making the actual chats better?
Messages adds enhancements like custom backgrounds for chats, the ability to create polls. Apple Intelligence can even suggest poll ideas based on the chat.
Huh.
And you can use Image Playground to make unique backgrounds for specific conversations. Group chats finally get typing indicators.
Typing indicators, yes.
And in the US, you can request, send, receive Apple Cash right in group chats. That's via Green Dot Bank.
Okay, so less spam, more fun, more functional messages. Now, for driver's CarPlay, any updates in iOS 26?
Definitely. Apple says CarPlay is used over 600 million times daily, so it's important.
Oh.
iOS 26 brings a new compact view for incoming calls. It's just a banner at the top, so it doesn't block your map directions.
Oh, that's a huge safety fix. I hate when the call screen hides the next turn.
Absolutely. It also brings tapbacks and pinned conversations over to Messages in CarPlay, and adds support for widgets and live activities right on the CarPlay dashboard.
So you can see info without switching apps.
Exactly. The goal is safer access to info and communication while driving. And these updates apply to both regular CarPlay and the newer CarPlay Ultra.
Good to see that consistency. Okay, let's quickly run through updates for some other key apps. Apple Music.
Sure. Apple Music in iOS 26 gets lyrics translation and lyrics pronunciation. Helps you understand lyrics or sing along in other languages.
Okay.
There's also Automix for intelligent DJ-style transitions between songs. And Tom's Guide mentioned music pins, letting you pin favorite albums or artists.
Nice for discovery. What about Apple Maps?
Maps in iOS 26 introduces visited places. It remembers places you've been, restaurants, shops, and lets you see them on the map. Encrypted, of course. It also uses on-device AI to learn your usual routes and proactively show you the best way, including delays and alternate options.
Wallet, always important.
Wallet in iOS 26 lets you use installment plans or rewards points directly in-store with Apple Pay. Boarding passes get refreshed. They show live activities for flight updates, link to airport maps, Find My for bags, that sort of thing.
More useful at the airport.
Yeah. More car makers supporting virtual keys. Digital ID is still planned for the fall. And like we said, Apple Intelligence helps pull order tracking info into Wallet from your emails.
Quality of life stuff there. Okay, back to iPad for a sec. Files and documents, big changes.
Yes, big updates for the Files app in iPadOS 26. The list view shows more detail, has resizable columns, you can collapse folders in line.
Finally, resizable columns.
Right, and you can customize folders, colors, icons, emoji, and it syncs. Crucially, you can drag folders from files right into your dock for quick access.
Oh, pinning folders to the dock? That's great.
And you can finally set a default app to open specific file types. Basic, but needed.
Absolutely. And Preview is coming to iPadOS as a dedicated app.
Yes, just like on Mac. A proper Preview app for viewing and editing PDFs and images. Markup with pencil or touch. Access files from the Files app. Create blank pages. Use autofill on forms. It's the real deal.
That's a major addition for anyone working with documents on iPad. What about the Journal app?
Journal was iPhone only. Now it's coming to iPadOS 26.
Yeah.
Capture moments, write, draw, add photos, videos, audio, places, mood. You know the drill. Multiple journals supported, view entries on a map, full Apple Pencil support.
Good to see it on the bigger screen.
Yeah.
And a whole new app just for games.
Yeah, the Apple Games app, launching on both iOS 26 and iPadOS 26. Seems like a new hub for all your games. kind of a successor to Game Center, maybe.
Okay.
Find games, jump back into ones you're playing, connect with friends, see events. On iPad, there's a new game overlay for quick settings or inviting friends mid-game. Positioned is the best way to experience Apple Arcade, naturally.
Interesting, they're giving gaming its own space like that. Any other tweaks to camera and photos beyond the visual stuff?
On iOS 26, the camera app UI is simpler, focused on just taking photos, videos quickly. Other modes are a swipe away. And, crucially, you can finally change video resolution and frame rate settings right in the camera app.
Yes, no more digging in the main settings app.
Apparently not. Long overdue. The Photos app, gets the new look, brings back library and collections tabs, and has those spatial 3D photo effects like the lock screen.
That camera setting change is small but so impactful. Okay, let's dig into features specifically aimed at creatives and pros, especially on iPadOS 26.
Right, another area where iPadOS 26 seems to be taking a big step. Background tasks. This lets computationally heavy tasks run fully in the background on powerful iPads, specifically the ones with M-series chips.
So I can actually start exporting a big video project in Final Cut and then go check my email without it pausing.
That's exactly the example they give, Final Cut Export. You'll see the progress as a live activity while you do other things. There's an updated API for developers to use this too.
That is genuinely transformative for pro workflows on iPad. What about audio recording?
Improvements there too. More flexibility. You can choose different mic inputs per app or website. Voice Memos gets voice isolation to cut background noise. And with compatible AirPods, specifically the new AirPods 4 models and AirPods Pro 2, they're claiming studio quality audio recording for clearer calls, content creation on iPhone, iPad, Mac.
Studio quality from AirPods is ambitious.
Yeah, the sources are careful to mention compatible models. Related to that is local capture lets you record high-quality audio and video directly from the iPad within video conferencing apps. It has echo cancellation, makes sharing the files easy.
Could be good for remote interviews, stuff like that. Anything new for Apple Pencil users? Drawing, writing?
Yes, a new pen tool in the palette, a Read pen. It's designed for a more traditional calligraphy feel, works with pencil or touch and notes, preview, freeform, journal, markup, and third-party apps using PencilKit.
Nice touch for artists. Even the Calculator app gets a creative boost on iPadOS 26.
It does. In the Math Notes feature, Calculator now supports 3D graphing. Write an equation with 3 variables and boom, 3D graph.
Whoa, okay. That really upgrades Math Notes. And Notes itself gets more than just the new pen.
Yep, Notes on iPadOS 26 adds import and export for Markdown files. And using that new phone app integration, you can capture phone conversations as audio recordings right inside Notes. And it includes automatic transcriptions.
Auto-transcribed phone calls saved straight to Notes. Wow, that's huge for interviews or just remembering important calls. Okay, let's quickly cover a few other updates across both platforms.
Sure, AirPods get more useful. Besides the audio quality, the stem on those supported models, AirPods 4, AirPods 4A and C, Pro 2 acts as a camera remote. Press and hold takes a photo or stops video on your iPhone or iPad.
Simple but handy. Parental controls are getting bigger too.
Yeah, apparently easier to create and manage child accounts. Enhancements to communication limits, safety features, App Store stuff, requiring parental approval for contact requests, blurring sensitive content in FaceTime shared albums, letting parents grant exceptions for app age ratings.
More fine-grained control for parents. Safari gets a privacy bump on iOS 26.
Definitely. Advanced fingerprinting protection is now on by default for all browsing. Makes it harder for sites to track you using your device's unique digital fingerprint.
Good to see that default protection getting stronger. And lastly, accessibility.
Several key additions. Accessibility Reader offers a system-wide, simplified reading mode. Braille Access gets a new interface for connected displays. And Share Accessibility Settings lets you temporarily use your settings on someone else's device.
That sharing feature sounds incredibly useful.
Yeah, plus updates to Live Listen, background sounds, personal voice, and more.
Okay, it's a really comprehensive set of updates, visuals, core functions, AI, pro features, apps. So when can people actually get their hands on this?
Right. Sources confirm developer betas went live right after the announcement, June 9th. Public betas are expected next month, July. And the final, public releases of iOS 26 and iPadOS 26 will be out as free updates in fall 2025.
This fall. And compatibility. Will all these goodies work on my current device?
That's a million-dollar question, right? iOS 26 needs an iPhone 11 or newer. iPadOS 26 is a bit wider. M4 iPad Pro, 12.9-inch Pro 3rd Gen Plus, 11-inch Pro 1st Gen Plus, M2 Air Plus, 3rd Gen Air Plus, A16 iPad 8th Gen iPad Plus, A17 Pro Mini, and 5th Gen Mini Plus.
Okay, that covers a decent range, but
Yeah.
the Apple Intelligence stuff, that has stricter requirements.
Yes, exactly. This is key. Apple Intelligence needs serious horsepower, especially for the on-device stuff. Sources say it requires all iPhone 16 models, iPhone 15 Pro or Pro Max, the A17 Pro, iPad mini, or any iPad or Mac with an M1 chip or later.
So M1 or better, or the latest A-series Pro chips on iPhone M mini.
Correct. And you need Apple Intelligence enabled and your device language set to a supported one. Initially, that's English, French, German, Italian, Portuguese, Brazil, Spanish, Japanese, Korean, or simplified Chinese. More languages coming later.
Right, so even if your device runs iOS 26 or iPadOS 26, you might not get the AI features unless you have that newer silicon.
That's the crucial distinction. And as always, some features might roll out later or not be available everywhere.
Got it. Okay, wow. We have covered a ton of ground. From that completely new liquid glass design and the, frankly, game-changing iPad multitasking to the really deep, pervasive Apple Intelligence features, plus major updates everywhere from messages to files to games.
It really does feel like, especially with the multitasking leap and the system-wide AI, Apple's trying to evolve how we fundamentally interact with these devices, making them feel more powerful, but also maybe more intuitive and helpful day to day.
So final thought then, based just on these sources. When you combine that Mac-like windowing power arriving on iPadOS 26 with this deep system-wide Apple Intelligence across both platforms, how do you think those two massive shifts working together might fundamentally change how we use our iPhones and iPads every day? What new possibilities really open up when your device can juggle more complex tasks and anticipate your needs, translating things, finding info contextually? It's definitely something to chew on as we head towards the fall release.